Now that we're done with our document list, we can move on to our parts list. Up to this point, adjusting any of the power selections or the number of PV strings doesn't change anything in the parts list. So I'll go back to my projects, edit, go back to PV power selections. So the two key selections that are going to change the parts list is which PV model do I select, and then how many strings do I insert. Now recall that each string in the CAD drawing was in fact 4 individual solar panels. So I'll add a new engineering output, and it's going to say if it's a Canadian solar CS3K and the number of PV panels 1, go to the parts list and add that particular part to my parts list. Now, similar to the document list, I can always, the first time I open this screen, it shows me all the parts, but I can always just filter down. For example, in this case, I'm filtering by the catalog. So I wanted the CS 6K300MS. I'll grab that, add that. Then I have two columns that I'm able to fill up. So the first one says how many do I want to add. So in this case it's 4. And then the identifier on the bill of materials would be PV panel. Save that. Now every time that I choose this particular solar PV model and I have PV strings 1 on the parts list, it will put out 4. Let's save that. Enter. That should be saved. 4 PV panels. So similarly now, I can now duplicate that particular part selection that I made, keep the PV model the same, but change the number quantity to 2. Go to my parts. Now instead of 4, I should have 8 because I have 2 strings of 4 each. Save that. Duplicate that. Change that to 3. Now I should have 12 parts. Test that out. I can go back to my projects. Since I have the PV model selected that and the number of PV strings is 1, I should have 4 of this particular PV model. If I change this to 2, it should change to 8. If I change it to 3, it should change to 12. Now similarly, if I change the PV model to something else, there should be nothing here. That's because we haven't created that configuration. So let's do that right now. I'll go back to projects, go to my solar PV, power selections, go back to my engineering outputs, and then I will add a new one. Select the second PV model, the number of PV strings is 1, and in this case the parts, I'll add the 305 MS, which is what I need over here. 4 of them, and the identifier is PV panel. So similar to the previous panel, I'll duplicate the row, change the count to 2, which means now I have 8. Duplicate, change the PV strings to 3. This will mean now I have 12. And while I'm here, I'll do the last solar panel as well. In this case, I'll just grab this one with the single PV string, duplicate it. Duplication is always your friend. It just speeds up a lot of the configuration changes. You can start from a single configuration you made, duplicate it, and make the adjustments you need to make. So in this case, I'll go to Mission Solar, and in the parts, I'll delete this part and add the Mission Solar part number, which is this guy right here. 4 of them, and then PV panel. Duplicate, change to 2. Now this should be 8. Change the number of PV strings to 3. And now this should be 4 times 3, giving me 12. Save that. So again, go back to my projects to test it out. And it's always a good idea as you're developing your different projects is to make changes, go test it out, make sure that it is doing what you're expecting to do, and then continue from there. So if I change the solar panel to 305 ms, I should have 4 of them. If I change this to 3, that should have 12. Similarly, now if I change this to Mission Solar, you notice that all the different data sheets updated, data sheet, warranty, and installation manual. So now I should have 12 of this particular PV panel.